turmoil that this awakening is generating.
So back in October, a group of us shut down and occupied EDF's West Burton gas-fired power station for a week to be saved from the 20,000 tonnes of carbon.
We need to stop complying and start defying.
This is Darkcity Radio.
One of the most concerning things about this is that the police seem to have been talking directly with EDF, actually helping them to sue us.
This is Darkcity Radio.
East Sussex County Council then came up with a scheme of a link road.
I am eager to hear what you've done, how you've got there, how these backhanded. Well, I don't know whether there is a conspiracy or the left hand really doesn't know what the right hand is doing within our council offices,
This is Darkcity Radio.
They didn't have the proper licences in place to cut the hedgerows down or to take the stumps of the trees out. Public inquiry was, in my opinion, rigged. There was protesters in the trees.
If you lower yourself to the level of violence, then the strongest person wins.
And this whole state is controlled by a body of words created by the government, statutes and acts. We're policed by consent, and that means statutes and acts require our consent to be given the force of law.
There's so many corrupt angles going on from this, it's unbelievable, it really is. East Sussex County Council are just bullying through.
Well, good evening, folks. This is Resistance News, and I'm commonly called Bob Earthwise. Welcome to your news show, where you can netcast to all about your actions of resistance. And we're here every week on Darkcity Radio. DAs, or direct actions, drive progress, and whether it be from Rosa Parks on an Alabama bus to the tank man in Tiananmen Square, these are the people that have affected real societal change.
We don't need someone to come along and tell us how to live in our community. We've got to make a peaceful, honest, honourable stand to the best of our ability to stop this going on.
And now, please welcome the Darkcity Radio Resistance News Crew.
Well, hello everyone. I hope you've all had a good week. It's been a strange week for news this week, but I'm not going to delve into current stuff too much. Following on from last week's, where we talked quite extensively about fracking and the damage that could cause, I thought this week we would chat about Ecocide. Anyway, going to the Ecocide, there's a citizens' initiative which is an aim at putting an end to Ecocide, and the proposed legal definition of Ecocide is the extensive damage to, destruction or loss of an ecosystem of a given territory, which could include the impact of activities such as hydraulic fracking. Interestingly, and the initiative was set up by a committee of 11 citizens from 9 European countries, with the aim of getting Ecocide on the statute book in Europe. The programme for European Citizens Initiative was started in the EU in 2009, and if the people that set up the initiative collect 1 million signatures from at least 7 different European countries, it all has to go through the European Parliament, which of course in theory anyway, is binding on every member country of the EU. And of course, as far as I gather, the ecocide as a crime, once, if it becomes legislation in the EU, will then be presented to the UN to make it global. And those sort of connections, in my mind, sound a bit fishy. I did wonder about Agenda 21, but being as that comes from the UN in the first place, and it's not the UN that is directly anyway pushing this agenda through the EU, it might be a safe thing. But ecocide happens all the time, and it happens everywhere, and it's part and parcel of corporatocracy, where everything is given a monetary value and everything is done with money as the end goal, and looking after our surroundings is at best a second fiddle. And of course, if this is made a crime, the idea behind the initiative is that it will not only apply to the people that actually cause it, but anyone who finances it, so that includes banks, and also anyone who sanctions it, which could well include governments. So it's could be quite a serious bit of legislation. I'm hoping we've got Nairis in the room. You there, Nairis?
Yeah, hello, I'm here. Sorry, I was muted then.
Hi, Nairis. So some of you out there may know I've spent a lovely 4 Friday evenings on Nairis's permaculture show. And of course, Nairis, I think you'll agree that permaculture is a direct opposite to ecocide.
Yeah, so I would say so.
If we had you on to chat about it and give a permaculture point of view towards it, and in fact whether permaculture can be used to rectify some of the damage that's already been done.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like to think so, and from my own experience, I think it definitely can be done, and permaculture in itself has evolved over the years, and they're now looking at larger scale sort of models, aren't they? I think there's a cattle ranch in Australia that's trying to work off a permaculture model, and it can be applied to anything. I mean, it's just common sense at the end of the day, isn't it?
Well, this is true, yeah.
I think that's... Sorry, go on.
No, what I was going to say is clearly corporate practices, which damage the environment, whether it be the natural environment or whether it be human environment, clearly isn't common sense, is it? No.
I think that's the hardest thing to get your head around, perpetual growth, ever expanding power is useless if you haven't got a planet to stand on, isn't it? So yeah. I just don't, whilst I understand the kind of the psychopath theory and the mentality of things they're trying to acquire, I just don't understand how, where it stops, why they can't comprehend that fact.
I know, it just beggars belief, really. When you've lived a huge, all my life pretty much, since I was at secondary school, working towards having a better environment for everyone and everything, it's still is really difficult to understand how all these years later people are actually doing worse, I think, than they ever used to do.
I know. It's absolutely crazy. So, and that's the reason I love permaculture so much, because it is, you know, it is action. And even as we've talked about on the permaculture shows, you know, even your little contribution to creating diversity just in your own backyard, you know. Let me just mute for 1 second.
All right. Well, come back when you can, Norris.
I will. I won't be a minute.
What I was also going to talk about, and I will with Norris when she comes back, is this citizens' incentive, which is EEE, which is End Ecocide in Europe, and it was launched at the European Parliament in Brussels on the 22nd of January this year, and of course it has a year to run to collect 1 million signatures. So far, it's collected over 18,000, which I guess if you project that up for a year, it's not going to make it. So really, we need to get behind this thing, and, you know, get your name on the signature. I'll just see if I can find. I'm looking at a blog at the moment. I'm just trying to. There we are. Ecocide in Europe. Okay, it's www.endecocide.eu. That's www.endecocide.eu, and you can sign the directive there. Obviously, it's going to take loads of us to do this. I mean, there are 350 million people live in Europe. It doesn't seem unreasonable that there would be 1 million of us that don't want the environment damaged anymore, and for what the damage there has been, for it to be put right. So yeah, please get on there, and let's see if we can get another few thousand on. There's also a little video there that has been put together about it that's quite fun. Share that round Facebook with the link. Please do. I will get the links on the podcast for the video and for the directive site, and of course any other site that we mentioned later on. Had you heard about End Ecocide in Europe, Norris?
Yes, I have seen it online, yeah. So is there sort of a maximum number of signatures it needs, or, you know,
well,
before...
The minimum
well, yeah.
is 1 million. You need at least 1 million citizens from 7 different countries to support it, and then it has to be discussed by the European Parliament. And I mean, it's not like a regular petition at all. This has, if 1 million is achieved from 7 different countries, it has a legal authority to influence the European Parliament.
Right.
So it's a serious thing, really. I mean, in the UK, we don't really have anything like it that marries up.
Like it at all.
Well, there is now, isn't there? That if a petition's set up on the government, I think that has to achieve 100,000, and then it has to be discussed in Parliament. So there is an equivalent, but of course this is a serious bit of legislation. I mean, I've no idea what the penalties would be for people that sanction environmental destruction.
This is the thing with it, isn't it? You know, I have a little niggle at the back of my mind because it's still a kind of going through the system, you know, and would we just have kind of court cases that last for like 10 years where they go, oh yeah, we lost all that information, And, you know, one of those, I don't know, just becomes another money-making thing, doesn't it? I don't know, I'm just
I guess it depends whether they really want it to have teeth. I mean, we've already in this country had legislation about criminal damage.
Yes.
And when you apply that to the environment, it carries life imprisonment.
Mm.
And yet it's never used. Or I've never known it to be used. I wouldn't say that it's never been used. I can't think of an instance when it has been.
Mm.
And you know, quite frankly, that applies to a huge amount of things. I mean, I don't know whether you've been keeping up with the Hastings Bexhill Road story.
Back in a sec.
But the Hastings Road, I mean, the amount of damage that's been done on that is quite extensive. You know, 1,000-year-old hedgerows being ripped out. I mean, none of us will be here to see that replaced at all. It's, you know, generations upon generations. When you think that those hedges started growing, you know, in the, well, I don't know, what is it, the 10th century, it's kind of, you know, they've seen so much history, including the Battle of Hastings. You know, if those hedgerows could speak, they would have a real story to tell. But it's, a difficult thing, this ecocide, and whether anything is given the right teeth in the end, or whether it's just going to be whitewashed over, we'll have to wait and see. I suspect that probably it will be as toothless as most other legislation is when it's applied to corporations. I don't know how you feel about that, Norris.
Yeah, well, I'd agree with that. I mean, as I said earlier, that is just why I find permaculture just so, oh gosh, I can't even put it into words really, you know, because it's action and it's doing something and, you know, it's being the change, isn't it, I suppose. But, you know, I mean, obviously with these petitions, it's only a few taps on the computer, isn't it? So,
well, it's not a petition, Nairis. That's the whole point about it. If the numbers are achieved, it has legislative power. It becomes a citizen's directive, which, you know, a regular petition never ever achieves that. I mean, that's the key to getting the numbers.
So, sorry, maybe I missed something you said earlier. So, how has that come about then? That this is in that petition that it's going to become, you know, chartered.
Right. In the supporting, it's about 2009. The EU ruled that if 1 million citizens, or more than 1 million citizens from 7 member countries, objected to something, and, you know, it was provable that they were actually citizens, that issue would then have to be debated in the European Parliament, and the wishes of the citizens would be, in theory, paramount. Now, because that is the way it's viewed by the European Parliament, it's written in legislation that that's the case. And then if the EU Parliament decides, okay, ecocide needs to be illegal, then all the other member states have to, in theory, adopt that law as well. They're not allowed to use their own. And then if that becomes the case, then will then get presented to the UN, who would then mandate it to be global. Now, there's chunks of it, you know, that suddenly smacked of Agenda 21 in my head. But I've looked at quite a few little videos, and one of the main speakers for it is Polly Higgins, who's a lawyer, an environmental lawyer, and she seems fairly genuine in as far as you can tell from a video.
Yeah.
And the fact that it hasn't come through the UN, or certainly directly, and whether it has covertly remains to be seen, would suggest that actually it's not part of the Agenda 21 programme. I will put up links to the Polly Higgins videos as well, so that everyone can have a look. And well, you just got to make your own mind up, really. But I would suggest that it would be worth putting your name on that legal document to get it put in front of the EU anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that. But it's I mean, if it goes worldwide, then some countries are going to be in trouble, aren't they? I mean, how's China to clean up?
It's not just countries, it's the corporations that do it, the banks that provide the money, and the government bodies that sanction it. Right? They'll all be liable, that's the plan.
Yeah.
You know, equally. And there's no mention of what the penalties might be.
There should be, you could force them all to watch permaculture videos. It'll be like Clockwork Orange, but with permaculture videos.
Clamp their eyes open.
Yeah, leave them in there until they come out reformed, ready to save the world.
Well, as I was saying before, criminal damage, when applied to the environment, carries a life in prison sentence in this country anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't actually aware of that.
No, not many people are, but...
But it's never
criminal
been
damage.
enforced. Is that what you said? It's never been actually...
I've not known it. I've not known it be applied to a corporation or even an individual that's got life imprisonment. So, you know, maybe it's just one of these other things that the CPS deemed to be too difficult to prove. Anyway, Nairis, we're going to be talking about who's got the patents on weed afterwards, so you might like to join in that.
Yes.
Just going to have a music break now. So if you want to stay on, please do. And let's go and listen to a bit of music. Have a comfort break. Be back straight afterwards.
Been listening to lies all my life. Time to turn off that road. Join the side of justice, free from remote control. Radio independence, get the real news. Listen to the free radio, make up your mind and choose. Selling the information, patenting the ideas, controlling communication, persuading us that we're free. Radio independence, get the real news. Listen to the free radio, make up your mind and choose. Listen to the free radio, make up your mind and choose. If you don't want to wear a barcode, you don't want your jeans on file, if you don't want the voice of America, you've got to retune the dial to Radio Independence. Get the real news. Listen to the free radio, make up your mind and choose. Radio Independence. Get the real news. Listen to the free radio, Make up your mind and choose. Listen to the free radio. Make up your mind and choose. When at last the people are free to be who we want to be, we'll take away all our pain and we'll go dancing in the rain. Rise up!
Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of music and you are now all comfortable. Because the next little topic is about weed patents. As strange as it may seem, there are companies and governments trying to patent marijuana. And not surprisingly, I guess, because it is proven that it cures cancers. So one of the latest ones is patent number US 20130059018, which is phytocannabinoids in the treatment of cancers. That's the most recent filing on cannabinoids, and it comes from GW Pharmaceuticals, which is a UK-based company, interestingly, that manufactures Sativex, which is a synthetic cannabis product. Well, you can't really call it a cannabis product. Oh no, sorry, Sativex is obtained from the cannabis plant. And it's specifically THC and CBD, though of course because it is extracted the way it is, it doesn't carry any of the other safeguard chemicals that would be in a natural product. And of course Sativex is available just recently in Canada, the UK, and I think 8 European countries. Though not available in the US yet, which is why they patented it all there. And the other surprising little patent is the US, actually, have got a patent. That's US 6630507, and that's the US government have got a patent on CBD. Strangely enough, and that's quite an old patent and has about 10 years of validity yet, and I think patents are 25 years long, so that's 15 years ago they filed that patent. How do you feel about all of this, Nairis? I mean, it's kind of bizarre that the patent offices are even allowing people to patent plants, basically.
It is, yeah. It's absolutely crazy. How do they actually word it on the American one, Bob? Do they call, is it cannabinoids they've patented?
Yes, yeah.
So it's not an actual hybrid product where they've removed it slightly. It is the actual. How do they word it?
The US government, the federal patent writers, made sure to include a long list of synthetic cannabinoids within their claims.
Yeah.
And carefully tucked away is cannabidiol, which is CBD, which is the natural thing, and it slipped through. The patent was registered, and because it was hidden, the patent office...
I mean, this one sort of stands apart, doesn't it? I mean, I think they're actually at the minute trying to do... Is it Nestle? I haven't delved too much into it, but I think Nestle are trying to patent Nigella. But obviously, with cannabis, it sort of stands alone because, you know, as far as the government stance goes, you know, it's, well, obviously we all know it's illegal, it's really bad for you, it sends you crazy, and yet there they are patenting it. So, you know,
I think they know and have known for 30 odd years that it cures cancer.
Yeah.
I think it was about 1976 that the UK government knew it.
Yeah.
Which is scary, isn't it? You know, how many people needn't have died in all that time?
It is, yeah. And I mean, it's one of those, you know, there's all this kind of information bandied about and kind of theories and whatnot, but I actually personally know of someone who was, he worked for Big Pharma.
Oh, sounds like Nairis has gone. Well, I hope you'll be back in a minute. Oh, you are back. Yay.
Oh, I am.
You disappeared.
Sometimes it doesn't tell me I've gone.
No,
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't tell me I've gone. So, but no, all I was trying to say is I actually personally know that, you know, there are people who work in Big Pharma, find cures for things, and then are got rid of. There's someone I know, but they're too scared to talk about it. So, you know, there's a whole multitude of examples out there of various diseases, you know. Awful.
Well, you know, really it's about money again, isn't it? You know, it's like the first half of the show, Ecocide, is about money.
Definitely. Well, there's the whole case with the doctors. I mean, you know, I've also known sort of personally that, you know, how doctors are kind of courted, as it were, by the big companies, you know. It's
well, and by the government as well, isn't it? Because if they achieve a certain percentage of their practice to get vaccinated with winter flu vaccinations, they get a £25,000 bonus. You know, so what's that all about?
I know. It's crazy.
Now, of course, you know, the bird flu is being threatened again. They probably got so much Tamiflu they want to get rid of before it goes out of date.
I don't know, there was that case in Russia, wasn't it, that they got sent Tamiflu that was actually live. It was only because they tested it before they started administering it.
Well, lots of them are live, aren't they?
Yeah, no, I'm probably using the wrong terminology. But I just it was sufficient enough to actually cause an outbreak as opposed to vaccinate people. Who knows? I can't, you know, when you start delving into these things, your brain just starts to hurt after a bit, doesn't it? You know, it's just, that's why I keep coming back to the permaculture, because it's just positive action.
That's right,
you know, good energy.
You know, getting back to how useless vaccinations are, you know, there's, as you're probably aware, there's a measles outbreak in Wales.
Yes, I had seen that, yeah.
And there was also one recently in the US, and I managed to see some figures on that one, and 97% of the people that had measles in the US, the kids, had been vaccinated. And 86% had been vaccinated twice against measles.
It's interesting. Yeah.
So, you know, to me, if you get vaccinated twice against one thing and you still get it, it can't be working, can it?
No, definitely not. No. Well, I haven't given the little one the MMR yet. She's nearly 3. But people are pressuring me to do it.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
It is. Well, it's a very difficult position as a parent, especially, if others around you don't agree, because, there's this whole thing of that's what they say to you, if the child got, mumps or whatever and was left damaged through it, then, well, it is true. If that happened, you'd never forgive yourself. So.
Well, true, yeah, but when I was a kid, we used to have things like chickenpox parties where one kid had it, all the other kids went round and had a sleepover, so we all got it.
Yeah, you're right. No, you can succumb into sensationalist journalism, isn't it? Because, I was thinking the same. Yeah, we all had German measles and all that, and everyone's all right. And in fact, I think it had, because the kids got chickenpox before I had the 3rd one. So he was a baby, my lad, and the little one got it, and obviously he was going to get it, but I was still breastfeeding him because he was, I can't remember, he was about 8 months or something, and he barely touched him. He got a few spots, didn't bother him, didn't have much of a temperature, and I think that was because I'd had it, and I'd obviously got some kind of immunity to it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Well, a lot of your immunities are passed over in breast milk, aren't they?
Yes, yeah.
That's the whole thing about it. And actually, that brings us very nicely on to what I wanted. I meant to talk about it last week, but I ran out of time. And this is Nestle. You mentioned Nestle earlier. And baby milk reasons is why I pretty much boycotted that company for, I don't know, it must be 15 years at least, if not 20. When they were saying in Africa that their product was better than breast milk. Which is, I mean, that's a criminal act in itself, because it's just simply not true.
Sorry, Bob. There's an incident alert. I'm just going to.
I'll carry on. Just come back in when you're done.
Oh.
But that was the reason why I boycotted Nestle all these years, and that's all the products that they produce. But if you needed another reason, as if there needed to be one, the chairman of Nestle was in an interview for a documentary called Feed the World, and he made quite an outlandish claim that water isn't a human right. And he went on to attack the idea, or any idea, that nature is good. And he also went on to say that it's a great achievement that humans are now able to resist nature's dominance. I mean, how conceited and selfish is that? And he goes on to attack organic agriculture and states that genetic modification is way better. Well, that just made my blood boil, to be quite honest. And it's a shame that I already was boycotting them, because it would give me great pleasure to carry that boycott, start that boycott now, but of course I already am. And I just hope that sufficient other people will be outraged by those statements that they will no longer buy Nestle products, which of course includes Nescafé and all sorts of other products. How do you feel about that, Naruse? Did you hear what I said about what this chairman of Nestle stated?
Was that I didn't catch it, but I have seen it. I think about water. That one.
Yeah, and the fact that that he thinks it's brilliant that human beings are now able to resist nature's dominance, and that organic agriculture should slide into second place behind genetic modification.
It's absolutely crazy, you know. And there have already been cases, haven't there, in America? Certain states have banned the collection of water butts.
They have, yeah. You could go to jail, don't you, if you collect rainwater in some places. I mean, how do they get that sort of legislation through?
I know. It's, you know, and as we've said with many other of these things, you know, the apathy just astounds me that, you know, a lot of people it doesn't seem to bother them. You know, they don't really seem to grasp the enormity of what's being said. You know, it's true. They'll tax oxygen, they'll limit oxygen next. They'll just pump it out to us if we pay for it.
Yeah, you can have 2 litres a week.
Yeah, they probably will. Oh, you know, it wouldn't
smoke while using.
Oh, you know, nothing could surprise me. You know, you could see it happening. I mean, it just, you know, that's the thing. It's a rolling stone. When, you know, well, it's already hurtling down a hillside, isn't it? There's, you know,
it does. Yeah, it certainly does seem to be. But you know, when chairmen of companies come out with this sort of, well, it's diatribe, isn't it? There's not a better way to describe it. I mean, really, he needs to be put in jail.
Yeah.
You know, I can't. Or, you know, where else do you put him? A special hospital. I mean, it's not right thinking, is it? It just so isn't right thinking.
Yeah, I just can't. You know, I've got quite a lot of empathy, even for people that have done bad things. But something like that, I can't get into the mindset of why they, you know.
No, I mean, a corporation like Nestle, which is, you know, a massive global corporation, actually should be channeling profits back into providing things for people that don't have, like free water.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, especially after what it was saying about breast milk, you'd think that they would be trying to exemplify themselves as a good company.
I don't know. I suppose they just are focused on it's all the power and the profit thing, isn't it? I suppose.
Well, I think that it's worse than that, isn't it? I mean, one of his claims was that the idea that water is a human right comes from extremist NGOs.
Yeah.
That water's a foodstuff like any other and should have a market value.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get into that mindset to think like that?
I know. Also, well, it is. Oh God, it's a false reality, isn't it? Where just everything that exists is a thing to be possessed or controlled, or you know. And yeah, when people get into those kind of positions, I think we are just looked.
Well, ultimately, he's, you know, enjoying his little slave community, isn't he? All the people that work, you know, he believes that the ultimate social responsibility of any chairman is to make as much profit as possible so that people will have jobs. Well, jobs aren't about profit at all, because jobs are pre-profit. They're part of the costs. So that's a kind of a nonsense statement in itself. When profit doesn't create jobs, it just lines the pockets of shareholders and company chairmen as well. So you're back with us, Nerys?
Yes, I'm back. Yes, you cut out a bit there, so I didn't capture all of that. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, you know, Peter Brabeck, or Brabeck, that's this, well, lovely man's name. And yeah, he just wants all his slaves to be working longer and harder and paying for the water, because obviously if you got to pay for it, then the money has to come from somewhere, so you got to do more work. You know, it's like everything that's going on at the moment, isn't it? With massive price hikes in foodstuffs and generally everything else, and there's no hike in wages unless you're an MP and you award yourself 32% in the middle of a recession.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's for me, you know, for many years I just thought politicians, these people, incompetent, but, you know, I mean, it's such simple mathematics that it's impossible for them. That's why, you know, it is corruption, because it's impossible for that many people to be incompetent all over the world, you know. It's just slap bang right in front of your face, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you know, there's a statement, and that is, we're governed by lies, and I think that that's probably a very true statement.
Yeah, I would say, you know, it's become almost a cliche, I think, now to, you know, refer to the Orwellian, but it is true. Everything's the opposite. And a lot of people...
I don't know whether you caught on last week's show that the monetary, George Osborne's monetary policy, the austerity measures that he's taking, came from a couple of economists. I forget their names offhand, but they wrote a paper stating that any country that went into over 90% of GDP, so more than 90% of GDP as debt, would flatline their growth. In fact, countries have gone over 90%, and their growth on average is 2.2%. So, you know, that whole backing for that is a nonsense. And in fact, the measures he's taking has flatlined growth. I mean, we're barely not into a triple dip recession. We haven't just snuck out, haven't we?
Yeah,
and
well,
it's just what Tories do, isn't it? You know, they take everything they can from those that can least afford it and give it to people that don't need it. And that's what they do every time. Yeah. Everyone knows. It's just that, you know, this particular paper, economics paper, was the excuse to do it. And it's now been proven, you know, a total fabrication of figures.
No, it's absolutely crazy.
Getting back to the Nestle CEO just before we go, there is a petition site for that, which obviously I'll put up with any podcast, but the address for that is usilive, all one word, .org, usilive.org/ Nestle-human-right-human-isn't-in-he's-wrong/ God. They ought to make these things easy.
Simple one then.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat it, but I will put a link up to it, and you can just click on it and go straight there. I mean, you know, at least don't use their products anymore. You know, the more of us that don't buy them, the less they're going to sell, the less powerful they're going to be as a company. And in my mind, you know, the only place to hit these institutions where it hurts is in the pocket, and it doesn't matter whether it's, you know, a corporation or a government. You know, if you don't feed them, they're not going to last very long. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you've had fun, Nyrese. I've enjoyed having you on this show for a change.
Yes, thank you for having me, yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
I hope the kids weren't too disruptive.
Oh, they were lovely. Just having little kids' voices in the background, you know, just shows we are live, isn't it?
Yes, and I am a real person.
Well, I'm not a person, that's for sure. That lives in the...
Oh, no, don't. No. No.
I'm an individual. Anyway, guys, that's about it for this week's show. Please have a great week, and we look forward to getting back with you next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
They said we could not do it. They said it wasn't possible. But we did it. We created a free radio station to bring the people together and spread an alternative message from the mainstream. They tried to silence us. They tried to hack us. But we carried on. You cannot silence the truth. You cannot enslave freedom. You cannot stop a good idea. You cannot stop Dark City Radio. The crew is now bigger and stronger than ever before. We will not be kept off the airwaves. We will continue. This is not our radio. This is your radio. This is Dark City Radio.
This is your Dark City. This is your Dark City.
This is your Dark City.
This is your Dark City. This is your Dark City.
This is your Dark City Radio.